Now, jumping into our next guest is going to put a twist on things and help us understand building skills, your brand, your community engagement that focuses on AWS skills and optimization. Please join me in welcoming Chief Digital Evangelist and co-founder of eViral Health, Evan Kirstel. Evan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and I'll try to meet your expectations here of giving some value. And I think we have 10 or 15 minutes. So where do we start, John? As a one content creator to another, how can I best use our time?
We're talking about optimize your AWS FEST, right? And optimizing your AWS. But how does that equate to your skills or the community engagement for your cloud environment?
Yeah, I think it comes down to you could be working on the most, interesting, dynamic, exciting project or app, or you could be a part of an amazing team, either working for a big company, working for yourself. But if you don't get the word out to the community, to customers, to media, to bloggers, to influencers about what you're doing and how you're doing it and why it's important and why it's relevant, it's like that tree falling in the proverbial forest that no one hears. So, the approach to digital and social media in 2022 is about taking the content creators' mentality and applying it to documenting everything you're doing around you, to creating interesting and educational, informative content about what you're working on and how it's relevant to the world around you. So there's a lot behind that in terms of tips and tricks and tools and techniques on Twitter and LinkedIn. But it's in a nutshell, it's about getting attention for you, for your project, for your team, for your company. And, these days there's a saying, it's not what you know, it's not just who you know, it's who knows you. And you could be the most amazingly skilled AWS architect, designer, tester. But if folks in the community don't know what you're doing and what you're working on, it's really all for naught. So in these days of digital and social, it's so important to take an aggressive, innovative, creative approach to being a content creator.
So, Evan, is that why I'm seeing a lot of roles around developer advocates, developer relations, and community building for those who are not only socially, but want to bring out more of a brand awareness in it, which helps them in their personal brand, but also helps them in their professional brand for their company?
Yeah, today the distinction between personal, professional, business, home, work life, all this has been blurred, particularly through the pandemic. And as we enter in this period of trouble, frankly, the R word, the recession word is on the horizon. It's really never been more important to stand out, to promote yourself, your skills, your capabilities, your projects, regardless of whether you're an independent like myself or part of a global company. You will be noticed if you create content on these social and digital platforms, and if you participate in communities like this one, but like Twitter and like LinkedIn and Reddit and Quora and others, where they're just tremendous communities built around things like cloud. And there's a lot of tactics. We could go into some of those if that's of interest, but having that content creator hat on has never been more important.
Before I get to that, you mentioned the R word, recession. But with recession, you would think these types of roles, community engagement, developer advocate, or relations, would be the ones that wouldn't be offered right away, right? Those are the roles that are like either expendable. But I have seen an increase in those roles. Why is that?
Because community is king. And those folks who understand how to build and nurture and support and mentor communities are going to be the ones to sort of lead from the front. And so if your community maybe is a team of 8 developers, maybe your community here is like the AWS FEST, maybe it's a community of 100 people on Twitter. If you can develop and nurture and build a community of like-minded people, all of a sudden you're going to get noticed and you're going to get attention and you're going to get the opportunities, whether it's the job opportunities, the promotions, the attention from clients or from media. So, putting yourself out there, both personally and professionally, has never been more important.
Before I get to how you do this, let's ask, how does this relate to optimizing your AWS? I mean, how does this relate to this event?
Well, I think if you are an engineer or a developer sitting behind the scenes optimizing your AWS for your own project or your own development purposes, it's great. But if you can optimize and then share and then educate and then inform and train, your colleagues, the community, the your team members, your customers, it's all the more powerful, relevant, and interesting. So, we're people, we're human beings. We like to connect, educate, inform, learn, and you do that on these platforms these days. There's no better place to do that than on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on Reddit. And by participating, you're not only sharing best practices, you're going to learn. It's going to be a feedback loop. And so you're going to learn from others like yourself. You're going to make connections that could be collaborators, business partners, customers, fellow developers, and you're gonna tap into quite an amazing network. I mean, if I go on Twitter, I see literally thousands of developers, of AWS employees, of media and journalists covering the industry, of clients, and participating in those kind of communities, or go on Reddit, the same thing. You're going to be at the leading edge of what's happening in terms of AWS optimization and many, many other developments.
I think being at the leading edge, AWS has been there and has these developer advocate roles already kind of well established and out there. And other companies are following suit on showing the value of these roles, these public facing individuals who are not only speaking AWS, but want to educate and show content around the things that they learn. And they want to be okay with not knowing and sharing it within the community. Evan, before we kind of wrap things up and move on in our short session here, how do you even get started in becoming a content creator or involved in the community? What are some of the things you can do in order to take these skill sets back and, really optimize my environment?
Well, I think it starts with your passport, and think of your social media profile as your passport to the world of social and digital. So here's mine. I have this new background, Go Big. I'm at an event in Las Vegas this week. And Go Big means really leveraging all of the features and functions to make a profile that's catchy, that gets noticed, and share and curate content that is really relevant to your audience. So, whether it's you're going after the, fellow, optimizers and engineers, whether you're interested in, finding customers for your business, there's a place to do that. And that is basically these days, Twitter and LinkedIn have become the new marketplaces for tech and business people. And so go big, have a really interesting, dynamic profile, explain your value prop and your elevator pitch on places like LinkedIn and Twitter, and get noticed, because if you're just doing your thing behind closed doors and you're doing it well, but really no one is engaging with you or paying attention, you're not getting the full value for your work. And if I look at LinkedIn is probably one of the best platforms today for organic social media content and for live streaming and for blogging. And you can have a tremendous impact if you get noticed on these platforms. So go out, update, refresh, redo your profiles, and start putting out content consistently, day in, day out. And I think you'll find your personal and professional life much better as a result.
I agree with you, Evan. Thank you so much. I apologize that we only had a short time, but it was a really informative session. Folks, don't forget to follow all our guests on social media. Evan, don't go anywhere, because guess what? It's time for some magic. Giddy, you want to join us back on? Evan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Giddy,
you. Wonderful trick. Good stuff.